South Africa go into the Rugby World Cup final. 19 points to 16 win over Wales. A very, very close game. Both sides with chances to win it towards the end. It was a wee bit ugly at times, but it's that kind of match where both teams are looking to execute without any real risk at times. So, yeah, it was a back and forth game. The second half was absolutely full of tension. And in the end, it is South Africa that were just too good. Pretty entertaining watch over the course of the 80. If you stopped watching at the 40, you probably missed out on the better half. But yeah, 19 points to 16, one try each. Much like the first semi-final, it's just one try each side. So it is the kicks that end up being the difference. But I'll go through some of the key points and you guys can let me know your thoughts. Towards the end, it starts off with Halfpenny getting a high ball. That's good for him because he's the fresh man back into the 23. With Liam Williams being out, he gets the high ball and it looks nice and smooth. Although I think it's Etzebeth grabs him and holds him up, so it's a maul turnover very early on, and it sets the feeling that the defense is going to be one of the key factors in this game, and it does prove to be that way. Both sides early, it was really about their defense. It was about getting turnovers. It was about putting kicks through. Nobody's wanting to play rugby in their own half. And, yeah, it was maybe capitalising off the opposition's mistake. 11 minutes, Wales do make one of those mistakes. Gareth Davis and Halfpenny, a bit of poor communication between those two guys. When they're fielding a kick, they bump right into each other. The ball ends up bobbling loose. It bounces off Halfpenny's head about 3 times. So that ends up being a scrum to the Springboks. One of those guys should have called for it and taken it, but not to be. South Africa win a penalty at the scrum. They call for another scrum. From the second scrum, they get the ball off the back. They've got advantage. And then, no, they don't have advantage, but they win a penalty at the breakdown. And from that breakdown penalty, they kick a penalty to make it 3 points to 0. So rewind the clock a few minutes, and it's back to that era with those guys running into each other, that South Africa get a chance to get 3 points. Ideally, one of the guys just takes it and either kicks it back down the field or runs it, and South Africa are not attacking. So Welsh mistake leads to South African points. 17 minutes, Wales go down the left wing. South Africa offside, and Bigger kicks a penalty, makes it 3 apiece. So again, mistake and punished. 19 minutes, South Africa get a scrum penalty. Pollard knocks it on when they're trying to use the advantage, so they go back for the 3, and it's 6-3, so it's kind of chopping and changing at this point. Neither side's really getting on top, but you feel like as the first half is going on, South Africa are getting slightly more and more dangerous, but they're not able to score points. Their execution's really letting them down. There's knock-ons. Hadley Parks gets like a half strip. They lose a line-out, I think, for the first time in this World Cup. So yeah, not quite able to really execute, although they did kick a penalty on 34 minutes to make it 9 points to 3. So for all the kind of dominance they had in that period of the first half, they weren't exerting a whole lot of scoreboard pressure. 35 minutes, unfortunately for Wales, Thomas Francis goes off. He has a clash with Vermeulen with his arm trying to go in for a tackle, and it seems like it pops or something, and he has to go off. So it's an early sub for one of the Welsh props. And then 38 minutes, it doesn't get much better because George North, he's trying to chase down a cross kick when the Welsh got advantage, and he pulls up lame when he's going for it. It looks like his hamstring. He can't continue. It looks like he might have been going to stay on, but he sensibly goes off. They go back for the penalties, do the Welsh, so they make it 9 points to 6, so it's only 3 points in it, but that's 2 guys that Wales have lost before the halftime whistle to injuries. So their kind of bad luck with injuries does continue. That's how it goes into halftime, but not before Moriarty falls over at the restart. He catches the ball and just loses his balance, so he gets put under a lot of pressure at the ruck, but the Welsh guys manage to keep things under control, so they don't turn the ball over, don't give the Boks that one last chance before halftime. Halftime stats, run meters 129 to 145, and that's in South Africa's favour. Possession 59% Wales, territory 55% Wales. But that being said, you feel like if there was a pressure like stat, it was more on Wales and less with South Africa. Tackling stats for both sides are good. 85% Wales, 87% South Africa. South Africa having to make a few more. Penalties conceded before a piece. Knock-ons before South Africa, 3-2 Wales. So a few errors kind of creeping in from both sides. It's 7 knock-ons in 40 minutes of rugby. Second half starts. The execution doesn't get a whole lot better because Faf de Klerk, again, it's just a totally unforced error from a kick. He just needs to catch it, but he just spills it straight into touch. And he gets fired up from that apparently because he goes after Gareth Davis. There's guys kind of in each other's faces, so there's a fair bit of feeling in the game, but all that does lead to a bigger penalty a few minutes later, so they make it 9-all. We're back to even before the 50-minute mark. The game needs a try at that point. It's chugging along. It's never really hit full stride, but then it does. On 57 minutes, Damien de Allende, who's really come into his own this tournament, kind of reaching that potential in the Bok jersey. We've seen him do it at Super Rugby, but finally at Springbok level, he's been showing some class. In the build-up, there's offloads. Pollard gets like a little half line break, but eventually it's Damien de Allende who goes over. He gets around bigger, and Thomas Williams can't stop him, so it is a try. It's converted. 16 points to 9. 62 minutes. Wales go 20 phases in the South African 22. It's phenomenal defence. It's good recycling of the ball from Wales. A bit slow at times, but I guess that's partly due to South African defence. A lot of that's within the 5-metre line from the South Africans, so the Welsh are not far away. They don't really give it to the backs. They keep it in the forwards. They do win advantage. When they get that advantage, when it's called back, they call for a scrum. It seems kind of incredible because it's only like 62, 63 minutes. There's still a lot of time to go back to kick a penalty, go back down and start again. But they call for a scrum, so it's a big call because the scrum's been under a lot of pressure. But it pays off because the scrum, again, which is under heaps of pressure still, they managed to get the ball out. Thomas Williams to Jonathan Davis to Josh Adams. Adams has been try-scoring form all tournament. He gets a try down on the left wing. Halfpenny has to do the conversion because Patchell at that point has come on. I guess they discussed who was going to take the kick. It's Halfpenny who's the guy who's warmed up. He's not just come on like Patchell. His kick is not straight over the black dot, but it's a really good kick from a hard position for him for his first kick. And that puts it back to 16-16. So again, it's totally game on. From there, you can feel like as much as South Africa had that kind of dominant patch in the first half, this was what it was for Wales. They were coming more into the game down the South African end, not that far away. Eventually they throw their hand into going for the drop kick. It's Patchell from a long distance, but his kick is wide and it's a touch short, so no chance to go ahead for Wales. 74 minutes though, South Africa win a penalty at the breakdown. They kick for touch. They maul it. They get a penalty advantage. Pollard goes for the drop goal. His one hits the padding of the post, so it's a bit to the side and a bit short. But that allows them to go back for the penalty. It's a great kick from Pollard. 19 points to 16. That's how the scoreboard is going to finish. The game's still not over though. South Africa have to see out the game. Faf de Klerk, who puts in all those kicks that everybody loves so much, he puts in a great kick down the sideline with no angle to work with, and it bounces a few times before rolling into touch, so it's a pinpoint accurate kick from him. Wales get a line out in their own half. Mostert, who's not been on that long, he's been on for a wee while, he disrupts, so it's a Welsh knock on, so South Africa get the scrum. That scrum wins a penalty, and that's how the game is seen out. They eventually just kick it out to the Springboks with time being up. So yeah, they controlled those last few minutes. Wales had their chance with that drop goal. Not to be. So both sides had chances to win it, as I say. But South Africa, over the course of the game, probably could have had a few more points as well. But yeah, man, very tight second half. I'm pretty glad I was a neutral for that one, because if you're a fan of either team, it would have been absolutely stress city. But yeah, overall overall good victory for South Africa. So Wales will meet New Zealand in the match that nobody wants to be playing, that match for third place, and England and South Africa will repeat that 2007 final with a chance to win it all. Final stats: run meters 189 to 283. That's in South Africa's favour, though Wales did manage to maintain more possession and territory with like 61%. The tackling stats: South Africa, man, they impressed here. Wales had 83%, which is solid, 74 out of 89. South Africa, 93% tackling, which is phenomenal, especially when you consider the amount of tackles they made. 142 out of 152. Great effort. You don't win many games against teams who tackle that well. That's a big shift from that game against the All Blacks where they were at, like, was it 60 or 70%? What a massive shift in their defensive effort. Penalties conceded was 8 to 9, so only won it with South Africa conceding one more. Knock-ons was 8 to 6, so Wales with 2 more. Turnovers conceded total, though. Wales 15 turnovers conceded to South Africa's 8. Again, that's probably another area that Wales will look at and think maybe the game got away from them. Individual stats: Peter Steph-Dutoy, massive 18 tackles. He did miss 2, but still 18 is huge numbers. The best tackler for Wales was Tiprick with 9 from 9, but he managed 5 turnovers, which again on its own is a huge stat. Vermeulen had 46 run meters. He was the top run meter getter for the Springboks. He had 2 defenders beaten. Adams had 50 for Wales, 2 defenders beaten. Faf de Klerk had 19 kicks. I know a lot of fans won't be happy with that, but some of them were really on the money. So Pollard got man of the match. He certainly accumulated a fair few points for the Boks on this one, but yeah, he'll need to keep doing that next week because England looked like a pretty sharp outfit. So, I mean, neither of these outfits looked that sharp like England did last night, but still, I feel like whoever won it was still going to be a good contender for that final. So hopefully it will be a pretty tight final. South Africa will definitely be able to give England a good run for their money, hopefully more than what the All Blacks showed, because that game was, in the end, pretty one-sided in England's favour. This game was not. It was tight. The momentum swung both ways, and overall, pretty entertaining game, especially that second half, less so the first. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on the game. Who you picking for next week? I guess we'll have to wait and see how all the selections and whatnot go. Hopefully Colby's back for the South Africans. That would be nice. Farrell had a bit of a sore leg, it seemed, in that England game, but he seems to be okay. So hopefully he's all good for that game as well, because we do want the best 23s really going at each other to decide who is the best in the world. But yeah, congratulations to South Africa. Top stuff. Commiserations to Wales. New Zealand in the same boat. That's my team. But at least you guys pretty much as close as it gets. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on the game, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.